Derek, anything further on Wille?
No, Billy, he's in probably a week-long evaluation what he's dealing with. Probably getting a couple different opinions on it. So we're probably still a couple days out before we know fully where he's at.
Do you expect him back at this point?
It's a good question. I would, probably 3-4 days ago I would have said no, but I don't know. He's actually feeling better, but I think he's going through the proper process, and it's going to take a few days because he's getting a couple different opinions.
Would there be any temptation, just given especially what the workload has been for him, to shut him down?
Possibly, for sure, of course. But again, we'll leave that up to the professionals here over the next 3-4 days.
How about Fabry? Is he?
Fabry's similar, where I think we're going to have news here the next couple days. I don't expect him back the rest of the year. And again, I think it's more of a cautious approach with him looking more towards next year.
But there's no surgery this time, right? Or
Don't know that. So they're potentially, but it's. I don't think it's going to be an aggressive type surgery. If there is, I think it's a cleanup type thing. But I think they're still in the process of figuring that out too.
When you look at Billy's injury and what you know about it, is there any concern that it was because of the workload that he took on this year?
Good question. I don't think so. I think this is something that's been underlying probably for a couple years on him, which is very common for his nature of position, and I think it's just come to the forefront now. So I think it's something I think they're going to evaluate here in the next few days. So yeah, that's a good question. Possibly, but I think it's been more of an underlying issue for him over a few years.
Do you have an update on Chason?
Chason was unavailable for practice today because he was getting evaluated during practice, just the timing of being able to get to the doctor. And he actually skated post-practice. So I'll know more talking with our training staff after.
And is Zadina, Sherrod, are they available for tomorrow?
No, I wouldn't call Sherrod available. It was a good step in the right direction to skate today. This has been right on the time frame, that couple-week time frame that we had talked about. So I would not expect him available tomorrow, but a step forward with him skating today. And Zadina, I don't know. It'll be a post how he feels after practice. He still has an underlying lower body situation from his previous injury.
Is Evans still an emergency call-up? Or?
I believe he's been officially recalled this morning, so he wouldn't. In reality, I'm guessing you'd have to be, knowing that Lindstrom is 100% now.
With Willie not being available, have you figured out a goaltending rotation? Go with the hot
No,
hand?
yeah, hot hand. If you will, Ned will be back in net tomorrow, and simply on the reality of how well he played, earned it. Warrants another start. And we want to kind of make it down the stretch here with both those guys. If you play well, you give us a chance, you'll get the net again.
Do you find that sometimes, because a player always wants to play, that maybe a player might mask something that's going on or nagging thing that they can work through it, and that's why when you say to us, we hear so many times, this is something that's been lingering for a while with him, that finally it just comes to a point where he can't, for lack of a better term, mask it anymore.
You're talking about Villy? Or just on the whole?
Players in general.
I think it goes both ways. I think, this day and age, you want the player to be honest about how their body feels. I don't know if there's those guys just pushing through, maybe like it was just part of the hockey culture back in the day. So I think it's probably more individual what the situation is. And we're going through a few right now. Fabs probably could have fought through it if this was different circumstances. Sherrod, similar, probably even Villy. But I think maybe it's a reality of where the season's at and where their body's at. So that's a good question, but it's probably more individual.
Is there an ideal number for quote-unquote starter when it comes to game usage now when you look at Philly?
No, I would have played him right through. I think we would have been right on a decent number. It would have put him, from the math we're doing of late, maybe 8 through 12 in the league for starts in the season, maybe top 10, and that's a starter for him. So, no, I don't have an ideal number,
evolution of the workload from that? Because obviously it's someone who has a history with the position. We go from, used to be someone would play, league leader would be 78 games or
Yep.
whatever. Now where league leader, someone hits 60, we're thinking that's a lot. How do you look at the evolution of that usage?
Yeah, I think it's just the reality position. I think knowing more. I think it's a different NHL now. Even with goalies, you see how intense the position is. I mean, it's the technical stuff 15 minutes before, 10 minutes after. I mean, goalies' workload even in practice is a lot different than it probably looked back in the day. So, yeah, I think that's individual. It's real now because people are, working around it and planning around it. But I still think it's maybe the individual and who can handle the workload and why.
Is there less of a gap between a starter and a backup too? Like if you look back at it, is it something where we're not a spot where you play?
Yeah.
Historically is.
I
now-
think maybe, but no, I don't. I think that's organization. We were designed this year to have two guys probably sharing the net. We would expect them maybe even that both get 50% of the net, and it didn't work out that way. So I just think it's who goalie A is and who goalie B is within an organization.
Hey, Derek, these next 3 or 4 teams, I mean, they're really gearing up for the playoffs. How do you guys match their intensity or just,
It's the reality of it. The guys are pushing hard. Our game's going to have to ramp up. I think we're realistic where we are. We will be huge underdogs. These will be tall tasks. But see, in NHL, you play the right way, you limit mistakes, you give yourself a chance, and that's the message no matter who we're playing.
I'm assuming you had a chance to take a look at the film from Philly, and I'm just wondering, is there anything that you can pinpoint for the lack of goal scoring or the struggles on the power play that you can pinpoint better today?
No, but that was, looking back, it was exactly how you felt after the game.
Yeah.
We gave up egregious odd mans. One burnt us at the end of the period, and our power play didn't give us anything, and that was the difference. So it's tough to point to the power play because that thing had been rolling.
Yeah.
We were almost 28% since Chason has been net front for us. So maybe a little credit to Philly, and they gave us a little pressure look, which they haven't all year long. And there's just some days, to execute, we couldn't make the one play, the 8-foot pass. We had good movement, and then we blow up a simple pass. It's just one of those days. Our power play just did not execute and let us down.
Derek, I know Toledo's 18-game winning streak ended this past weekend, but I know you know Dan Watson. He was an assistant. When he was your assistant, did you see him developing into?
Yes, he was excellent. He's excellent. We work together. Unique situation at that level. There's 2 coaches. We split everything. This day and age, every level you go up, you get more coaches. I mean, you see our staff operate. We have, include our video coaches, our goalie coach, our string. I mean, it's 8 guys on top of it. And the ECHL, the luxury of 2. And he's an excellent coach. Knew he's an excellent coach. We worked great together. We had a ton of success together there. And it's just, he's led to a ton of success after the fact. He's in a phenomenal situation there. He's in a really good family situation. I'm never going to say anyone's above the league, but he's only stayed in that position because of unique circumstances. He's always been an excellent coach, and I'd say the same for Ben and GR. When you look at the 3 coaches or 3 teams, the organization here, I think we have 2 really good coaches in GR and Toledo.
With the ECHL, that's kind of a level where you're still the coach and the GM. It's kind of the last level now where coach
Yep.
and GM are still one and the same. And that's kind of the spot where you see some people go the management route, some people go the coaching route. Was that, when you were at that spot, did you ever think you would
100%.
ever not go coaching and ever go management?
That's a great question because I would take it further. I think I've been very fortunate with my path in that when I was a college assistant, you're almost playing GM also. Your scholarships, how you're slotting players. USHL, I was coach GM. You're building the team, you're going through a draft. And then the ECHL, it's the same thing. You're the GM and coach. Those are very unique experiences, and it's really helped me as a coach, and I think it's helped me on the big picture. So yes, there was that time, but it's just different. Like you coach, you enjoy your summers off, and the management, there's no summer. I mean, it's just the amount of work they do from preparing for draft, free agency. For me personally, no thank you, but they probably look at coaching. It's just different intensity level. So those others pass. The general manager thing is just unique. There's no real path. You can see ex-players, guys that never played the game, lawyers, agents. I mean, they come out of nowhere. So to answer your question, yes, but I'm very comfortable with the coaching path.
Are you, I mean, I know the organization's happy with the way Kosa has really developed his game. The people say, well, yeah, but it's the ECHL, but you're very aware of that league. That's a good place for Kosa to be at this point.
It's excellent. I don't think it's an accident that the most percentage of the goalies in the National Hockey League have spent time, and even some significant times, in the ECHL. I'd be careful of that too, in that sometimes that game's a little more chaotic. You're dealing with rotating rosters. Sometimes you're stuck on an overnight and you've depleted lineup. So sometimes it's less of an organized game, and the goalies down there are actually looking at tougher chances, percentages, than they do at every level. Sometimes it's the difference between NHL, American Hockey League too. So if he is doing it over that period of time, no matter what the circumstances, I think that speaks pretty well of how he's playing. And this is the vision the management team had for him, and it's going exactly to script, which is all you can ask right now.
I think you talked about it on Chicklets. I mean, when you guys were winning there, were you kind of like the toast to Toledo, basically?
Toledo, I'm telling you, almost, you guys are around here, so you've seen it. That is one of the most unique, special, fishbowl, unique, special fan bases that I think you'll ever find at any level. It's passionate. They know their team. That's what's big in that team, in that town. I tell people all the time, like I can sneak through Detroit and not get noticed. I could not sneak through Toledo and not get noticed, and in a good way. And that's just, I tell people all the time, you almost have to experience it to believe it. That is one unique, special, crazy fan base. It's just, there's a connection between that team and that city that's unrivaled. And I'll challenge that to any level.
You guys, I mean, like this season in Detroit, how often have you gotten,
No,
hey,
it's-
you're the Wings coach or something like that?
A lot better when we were above that playoff line about 3 weeks ago than it has been now. But no, that's all part of it. And it's Hockey Town. People are excited about the Red Wings. They should be. There's a passion to it. So there's a little of that, but I preferred the pats on the back 3 weeks ago compared to I've had a couple people ask me about certain things with our team of late that I would like to avoid the conversation in a restaurant setting, but that's all part of
You
it.
can just start telling them that you got the wrong guy. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes. So
Did you ever go to Tony Paco's order?
I did not, but I would just go just because. But there's great community, even in the Mud Hens. I loved my 2 years there. What an organization, a unique situation.
So have you ever said, no, I'm not Derek Lalonde?
No. Jay Verdi loves it. Someone will come up, he's like, how'd you recognize him? I think he's referring to my Gru look-alike, unique. It's tough to miss him.
One of the best looking in the league, though.
Yeah, I am the third best, but I don't blend in well. And I think for whatever reason, I've got some unique features that make me very noticeable, and in a good and bad way, I guess.